time I think I'm growing up. And then she ran to take my hand underneath the moonlight.
Welcome to the Scape Music Day Out pre-event live stream. Today's fundraising topic, today's topic is about fundraising, but it's part of a larger piece of events that are happening right before Music Day Out. Music Day Out is an annual event organized by Scape. It's to kind of celebrate the local independent scene here. We have a bunch of talent and a bunch of people that often don't get as much exposure or listenership as they do. And this is the third year. MDO is, of course, a hybrid format. We are here together. We can touch each other, although we shouldn't. Uh, but most of it will be online, except for the shows and the workshops that are happening this weekend, Friday and Saturday. And this year's festival is quite happening. To be honest, there's quite a lot of acts that I'm quite looking forward to. And you can be there physically as well. Like it's like for 40 something slots for each. So you can still register for some of them. Some of them have already, of course, been sold out. And Music Day Out will be happening for another 4 or 5 more days until Saturday. It's the last day. You can go to Scape, social media, scape.sg to find out more, both on Facebook, Instagram, and you can register soon now because no more already. Yeah, physical stuff very fast finished already. Okay, back to today. Today we are talking about the art of fundraising. And today's topic is called Today's Fundraising. And we have two very esteemed guests with us. First on my right, we have Dawn, who's from Foundation. Would you like to introduce yourself, Dawn?
Hi, I'm from the Foundation for the Arts and Social Enterprise, and we are an ITC arts charity that aims to reorient arts philanthropy in Singapore, as well as to commission and export Singapore works. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. I've been working with not working lah, but I've been looking from abroad, like looking at Foundation, and quite have been admiring what you guys have been doing for a while. And I mean, kudos to you guys for helping the scene so much. And another guy who has done so much for the scene, another person who has done so much for the scene is Mr. Big Bicep Joe Tan.
Hi everybody. My name is Joe. I run a social enterprise called the Faction Project. So my involvement in music was in Music for a Cause, a music festival, Singapore's first social cause music festival, which ran from 2016 to 2020. So yeah, beyond that, I also run events on the side to help fundraise and raise awareness for social causes. So happy to be here.
Yeah, I know you also work. You also are part of the tuck shop as well, which is like an F&B. Bistro. Is it a bistro? I guess
Yes.
that's what you call it.
Yes.
Gastronomy.
Thanks
Right.
for the
Yeah.
ad lib,
Yeah.
David.
Yeah, yeah, really good food there. I love it as well. Okay, so let's start with the general broad like kind of thinking of behind fundraising and why is there the need to fundraise, right? So for each of your organizations, why do you do it? Why are you fundraising? Let's start with that. Don, you want to go first?
Well, we fundraise mainly to give back to the arts. That's the short of it, right? although we are called the Foundation for the Arts and Social Enterprise, we don't actually come, with a backer, as most people would think, given the name. So we go out and fundraise, and then we channel that money back into achieving the goals that we set for ourselves, which revolves around what I said earlier, which is commissioning and exporting Singapore work, and getting more people within the community to know about these works, about Singapore artists. I mean, how many Singapore artists can your average student name, right? So we're hoping to change that, and we need your support.
Yes, zoom in there. We need your support. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess like for you it's similar as well, right? We're thinking about the arts, and but yours is a different kind of community. Is
Yeah,
it?
well, so on the context of music for a cause, we started off really because we wanted to raise awareness for social causes in Singapore, and then we wanted to use music as a medium. The whole concept of fundraising was, we were a little bit more reverse engineering in the way we do it. We wanted to get people to come down and understand the social causes, understand the whole concept of why we need to help somebody, an organization, a non-profit, and then from there, when they build the relationship, then it makes it easier for the fundraising to happen, because people are convinced, people are sold to the idea and what they are doing, and then they are more ready to to donate and be part of the whole fundraising campaign.
Yeah, okay. So you mentioned something very interesting there, where it's like there is a connection that you need to make between the person and the cause. And for you, how you do it is you actually use music as the medium, the intermediary between connecting people. I mean, like this is how I imagine it going, like, I am Tom, Dick, and Harry. Then I come down I come to the event because of the music, but then I pick up social causes along the way, and I find out more about. I guess that's the kind of strategy that you're going for, is that right?
So I think we started off really very straightforward. We wanted to do like a little music festival, right? So get the musicians up, and then at the same time we thought about, okay, if we do music festival, then we want to spread social cause. The typical way to do it would be to have somebody come up to the stage and talk about and perform, and then say, I support this social cause, this, donate the money, right? So that's the more straightforward one, like the typical charity events that we see at charity shows. So then we thought, can we be a bit more different? So then what we did was, okay, why not we invite the social causes we want to feature to set up a booth there. And then public can come in, listen to music, in between breaks, then go around to talk to the social causes, and then they can start sharing to capture the moment, right? And then after I thought, okay, you know what if people get hungry there, then how? So then okay, then let's get some booth there, local entrepreneurs there, small business owners set up booth there so that they can feed the concert goers. So that started the whole wave of music for a cause. Then that kind of started with, I think 5 social causes in 2016, 5 social causes, 5 F&B booths, and then I think we had like 12 or 16 artists. And then as of the 4th year, I think we had like 16 and up to 30 F&B. So we kind of scaled it up in the years to come. I think it's also because people started to get familiar with what we were doing and all that. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember one or two of your festivals. You had dogs at your right. You can pet the dogs. It was so like I would just like spend all my time there. Yeah, very smart. That's a way to use common interests, I guess, to bring people in, right?
Yeah, and I think one of how it morphed also to last year was also I would say it's also quite ironic because we were using music to fundraise, right? And then who knew that last year when COVID came, we had to then switch the attention to fundraise for musicians. So then I think it was quite a good transition. We went digital last year for the first time. We caught on the wave. I think it was the circuit breaker when that happened.
Yeah, May.
And then people were stuck at home. And then when we knew that it was going to be extended, we were quick. So we said, okay, let's go digital. And then we quickly went digital. We started to have built the narrative about supporting the hawkers, supporting the frontliners in terms of the bus depot and train station staff, and then after musicians, of course. And then we pushed on the message really quickly, and then it just hit. So I guess if you ask me whether do we expect fundraising to be that deliberate, you gotta say sometimes it's a bit opportunistic. But I think most importantly, the narrative must be very clear. Why are we doing this, and why should we donate to them, and why should we support the cause or fundraise for the cause vis-a-vis whatever that's out there now.
Yeah. So I'm not in you, Don. By the way, here coming to you.
No,
Yeah.
no,
I'm taking Don's time all the way, man. Don, I'm sorry.
I'm learning. I'm
Learning.
here to pick
Yeah.
up more tips.
It's a slightly, the way I see it, it's slightly different from both of you guys are quite differentiated in the sense that, you know, for MFAC you started like pre-COVID as well, and you joined foundation right before COVID hit, right? Something like that. So for you and the focus changed slightly as well, where because like, you know, because of COVID there are more people, or there are different groups of people that need assistance and support. Whereas like, oh, the hawkers also need to be supported, you know, the frontliners needs to be supported, and so the purpose changes according to the times. You know, for foundation yourself, you know, when you join, it still always has been about the arts, right? And it's been never changing because like our arts seriously need help, basically, right? Yeah. But for you as well, before COVID happened, like, and is there any difference in what you do with pre-COVID for foundation, pre-COVID and now I guess this period?
I think one of the very big things for us when COVID hit was knowing when to pull back, really just pausing everything, because people are suffering, they are struggling, people need to make ends meet, people are dying, they're getting sick. So to ask people to open their wallets and give money to, you know, creating art at that sort of time is a very big ask. Definitely musicians and artists, you know, still need sustenance. We need to keep going. But the core of the foundation has always been to commission and export Singapore work, right? So we are not, how do you say, we don't, we weren't set up to sort of support, there's no nice way of saying this.
Yeah, it's okay, go for it.
Try.
Yeah, go for it. We can
Yeah.
paraphrase it.
Okay, let's try and paraphrase this. So we know musicians are suffering, but we also have a responsibility to our donors to use the funds the way we said we would. And the funds that we raised were not meant for handouts, if I can say that. If I can say that. So we needed to stay focused and reserve our money for when we can start our engines again to do what we had set out to do.
I see.
So we wanted to be very careful about not derailing from our purpose. So what we did instead was to commission work. Yeah. So, you know, rather than say, I know you're struggling, here's, you know, $1,000 to tide you over, we said to the musicians that we could you know, reach out to and said, look, we would like to commission some work. Let's work together to keep the message of the arts going. And let's keep creating, even in a difficult time, you know, we can still do this.
I think that's the way forward, where it's like, you know, handouts, you know, the old saying, give a man a fish and he lives for a day. Teach him to fish and he lives forever. No, he doesn't live forever. He learns to fish forever. I mean, it's a similar thing where it's like, you know, and musicians have their pride also, you know, like, yeah, giving them commissioning pieces of art is a lot more like, you know, in line with what they want to do anyway, because they will have to churn. I mean, tough times bring out the best kind of art, lah. So actually, it's kind of a good time to start commissioning. They can, if they're depressed, they can write about it, you know.
Well, I think to echo Don's point, I think fundraising, the whole concept of fundraising must be, you must be clear, like, you know, working with as a social enterprise, we work with charities, non-profit for many years, and in that process, we come to realize that as we feature them, as we want to talk about them and promote them, or even help to raise funds for them, we were very clear there needs to be a connection that's drawn through awareness. What it's not about the beneficiary, and you know, sometimes it's easy to highlight, you know, very bluntly, the disabilities, the challenges that they face. It's very easy because then you use the sympathy angle, right? But I think as I approach it, I always feel that using sympathy angle is not a long-term answer. A lot of times people get fatigued about it because everybody is using that kind of sympathy angle to ask you to take notice of it. But my question to them as I work with them has always been to ask that question, like, okay, so what are you doing then to help these people? share with the public what you're doing. What exactly are you doing? What are the programs they have in the next 1-2 years? And in that way, if you raise this amount of money, then what will you do to benefit them? How will these people benefit from it? How will these people get integrated to society? How will these people then be able to advance what they want to do for the society or for the cause? And in that way, when public listens to it and public reads it, it's very easy for them to make a decision. Yeah, I agree with it. It resonates with me. What you want to do, I want to see this happen on the ground. And then that's where they action.
So it's like a bit more tangible, yeah, something that they can understand. You give the public something they can understand, so it's a goal or event or something to work towards lah. Okay, yeah, that's very interesting. So in a way, you can think of fundraisers as like enablers lah, yeah, in a good way, not in like enabling other forms of use kind of way. But I was thinking about this then, as you guys raised this, like what's the difference then between fundraising for the arts and fundraising versus like disadvantaged, like what do you guys, how do you imagine it be different? Oh, this is a tough question.
Two things come to mind. The first is, I know Joe said uses music as a medium. For the foundation, the music is the medium, or the arts is the medium, as well as the beneficiary or the product or the outcome, right? So that's one thing. And the second thing is, I don't think it's all that different. It really is about coloring in people's expectations. So what is your money going towards? What are the outcomes that you expect to see? Of course, for the arts, it tends to be a little more intangible. I cannot say, oh, it will generate, a month of lunch money. It's not as quantifiable as that. But we at Foundation, we believe, and I personally believe, that the arts is it's really like a public good, right? And somebody's got to fund it, and everyone benefits from it, directly or indirectly. So it's just drawing that connection between, the money and what people get in return. So I mean that is a difficult bit right there, yeah.
I agree, Don. I think my point is that I don't see any difference. But then I put out hard truths, right? So then there's the reality line on the ground now where people will say, okay, if I have $5 now or $10 now, who should I donate to first? And I think the reality on the ground is people will tend to donate to beneficiaries that in their eyes needs it more. And somehow or other, there's always this grey line that, people that are probably in the arts and probably in the sector that they are passionate about are not really in a dire state as compared to people who can't feed themselves or people with disability. So that's the kind of, or pets who are homeless, that kind of stuff. So I think that's the kind of general perception that's going on the ground. So I think in a way, we talk about, I like to put it in the perspective like, Kickstarter, right? You want to do something, you put up what you want to do, and then people support it. These people have money as well, and these people support. So I think in a way, even when we talk about supporting music, should it then be put in the angle that, I sympathize the musician, or should be like, look, I want this to go on. I like what you're doing. I want to support that. So I think in a way that what Don is doing in the foundation, and of course what SG Muso is doing, is really trying to keep that passion alive, right? Make sure that the ecosystem continue to thrive, continue to generate musicians, continue to have that kind of culture and identity for Singapore. I think one of the biggest challenge that the Singapore music scene face in my 5 years running music for us is that actually we got amazing talents in Singapore. I really look, I started music for cause and I caveat, I'm sorry, in 2016, I probably just listened to a few local music on radio and I'm like, okay, it's nice, but I didn't know it's from them. And then when I started getting them to gig with us, I was like, wow, this legit, local musicians, legit people, man. And I'm like, what? Why are they not being out there more? And then that's where I realized that actually a lot of time we get converted by this whole US culture, pop culture, South Korea, K-pop culture, and then we start to think that our country musicians are not that worthy to support. But look at Nathan Hartono, look at Joanna Dong, look at Jasmine Soko. These people are out there and throwing their names out themselves, and they are young age, Sugar Shay, right? Lan City, all these people are there, right? And you don't even talk about just the pop typical pop music scene, right? You got people in the jazz side as well, and I think one of the narrative that I think if we can string it a bit stronger is really to continue to build that ecosystem and say, look, guys, this the supporting of musicians and to musicians and foundations are not a sympathy move. It's a development move. You fundraise to develop capability for Singapore and as a nation. And then if we don't do it, we can have a lot of other non-profit organizations out there. But ultimately, if I see something that's a bit more evergreen and long-lasting, music would be the one. So, I don't know, something worth everybody's consideration.
It's like you eat chicken rice out, right? Yeah, why you don't listen Singapore music? I mean, that's the gap that we're trying to fill, I can sense the passion there, and I think that's, I guess, one of the questions then is like, how do you this is a very clear indicator of like how you find the gap within the industry and like or rather within the infrastructural system, right? And what Singaporeans might not be listening to enough Singapore music, and how do we change that? And that itself becomes like a cause that you're trying to fulfill, Yeah, but Don, like yours is a bit more of the other side if you're talking about export, right? Like and how do you guys come to that conclusion that this is the issues I wanted to fix? Or
actually, it's a little bit of both. We do, also want to borrow Joe's terms, to invest resources towards our local community and getting the community to be more aware of Singapore art, Singapore artists. But we also recognize the need, and I think this is something that you can observe just in general. So what was that term that you said where we exported and then...
Chicken rice. No.
And then we import.
Reverse import.
Reverse importing, right? It's sad, but it's true. I don't know if it's still true now, but if a Singapore artist makes it out there, it's that much easier to bring them back here.
Yeah.
Right? And also, I think it's just plain numbers. The market here is small, so if you want something viable, it's going to be that much harder, or maybe I don't even know how possible it is to sustain that sort of level if you don't look into foreign markets. So,
yes.
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, like, for foundation at least, right? Thinking about the avenues for your artists, then it becomes very clear export needs to be one of the pillars, right? Other than developing local arts and commissioning as well. One of the things I was thinking about was like for both of you guys, like working with brands, is that like is that commonplace? And what exactly are brands looking for now when they're talking about sponsorship or being part of that fundraising world,
I'd really like to know, actually.
Okay, so maybe I share about SG Muso how.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that we did for Music for a Cause when we kicked off the digital version last year at COVID was that we introduced how we created the narrative to support musicians was really quite a deliberate thought. We actually consulted a few musicians as well. I think we spoke to you about it as well, David. Yeah. So we had SG Muso on board as the beneficiary that we wanted to fundraise for. But yet we were very clear that it's not just about talking about musicians performing for musicians and then donate money. We wanted to create a campaign that then can help us to track and quantify the amount raised to the musicians. So I think one of the things we conceived was called Fund a Gig, FUNDA and then gig. So what happened was that at that point of time, musicians were unable to perform live on site, and then buskers had issues as well. So then what happened was that we said, okay, why not we let them live stream, and then as they live stream, we will then we will pay them for that gig, live stream gig. And this gig is funded purely by public donations. So that's how we did it. So with that narrative, I think we raised about, what, 8,000?
Yeah, it's about
8,000 plus dollars. And then we managed to support, I forgot, 30, 40 people. I think...
Divide by 300.
$300 a gig.
$300
a gig. So we managed to give about 20 plus gigs.
Yeah.
So I think that was that started off the whole idea of like, okay, how do we dignify this whole process, right? We're still appreciating the musical talents. We're still allowing them to perform. And then at the end of the day, we then remunerate them the way they should be remunerated for their performance. So that was how we started off. And then after that, we went to, Najim also went on to do it. And then that's where corporate came on board. Like we got Hugo Boss came on board.
Yeah, that's right.
Few corporates came on board, and then we shared the same concept as them. And what they did was, they started to sell their own. I think they did a cocktail event at Zouk,
Yes,
right?
that's right.
And then for every set they sell, then they will hit a certain amount, and then they will fund musicians for the gig. I think that was the model we created, and I think that was that is just but one of the example of a model that we should think about in terms of working with musicians, because I think music is a profession, right? And yet at the same time, music is something that gets overlooked because it's so convenient. We listen to it over the radio every day, right? We walk around the mall. Okay, not now. We listen to music everywhere, but not now. Hopefully next week. So yeah, but that's the whole idea. People listen to it all the time. People have Spotify. They listen to it, and they have YouTube, right? But then they don't think about who funds them, who pays them. And then at the end of the day, we got to just put out the message and say, look, guys, you're performing, somebody's going to support it. Can you do it with us? And sometimes it feels good, right? That, I'm supporting this person's gig. And that's what we're trying to do, we hope that there will be something that corporates can consider, not just public. Corporates can start thinking that, okay, I want to support something, but it can be very tangible. I want to support, for example, the Foundation of the Arts or even SG Muso. I want to give you a certain amount of money, but I want you to come out and perform at our events or whatever, and then we fund you. That kind of stuff, right? So then it's a win-win.
It comes back to the whole thing about enabling as well. So don't just give money out to artists, but like musicians, but let them do their thing, and then it becomes a win-win exchange of value, right? When you're getting musicians to do their thing, and then you get a show of it, I guess, yeah. Are there any kind of case studies that you have heard when it's like successful working relationships with brands, maybe during COVID period, which would be more relevant? Yeah. Don't have.
I'll start first and let Dawn think.
Yeah.
Because she's going to give us a very good answer, I'm very sure. Yeah?
Cool.
No pressure, no pressure.
Yeah. Good time, yeah.
No, so I think working with corporates in this COVID climate, I must say, is very challenging. I think a lot of the companies, as a social enterprise, a lot of companies have decided to tuck in. A lot of them, because of the fact that they can't be outwardly involved on the ground, some have chosen to directly donate to the non-profit, and the motivation is simple. They still get basically they want to donate to IPC status charity, and then they continue to get their tax exemption. So that's one of the consideration. Second point is just exposure. They just really want their staff to be exposed to the non-profit organization for their own safety because of the COVID climate. So a lot of activities has been toned down. I don't personally have a very good classic example to share, mainly because of this. But I do want to share, remember there was a period of time where the government decided to give all of us, I think, is it $300 or $600?
Yeah.
Remember last year?
Yeah, last year.
That was like a corporate money for a lot of non-profit.
Yeah.
And I think I rallied for 2 organizations, I can say.
Yeah.
Can I say guys? Yeah. Tribe and Daughters for Tomorrow.
Yeah.
So at that point in time, I created a narrative for them to help buy groceries for low-income family for Tribe, because those kids both their parents are actually not around, and they're probably locked up in prison. And then for Daughters, not Daughters, Babes teen pregnancy.
Oh.
So those were young women, single mother, that had newborn, and then they couldn't afford diapers and milk powder. So when I was approached by the public, so the public was like corporate to me, right? Said like, hey Joe, I got this money, can I do some good? And I said, okay, let me do it for you. So I just spoke to both Tribe and Babe, right? And I said, okay, guys, I'm going to create something for you, but I need you to be accountable. Okay. Again, that same principle apply, right? Tell me how many groceries you're going to buy. Tell me what is inside. And then I tell them, please don't. And I can urge everybody, please don't go and buy those typical 2 bags of rice, 1 instant noodle, 1 tin of biscuit. It doesn't work that way now, guys. We got to move beyond that. So I tell them, you got to understand what they need and you buy from them. They can choose from the list, but we give them a cap, right? So they choose whatever hit the cap and go. So they say, okay, we will choose about 10, 12 families, young families for that. And then for babe teen pregnancy, it's like, okay, you got to tell me, I've got this amount for you now. Give me a target to raise it. And then after that, you will tell me how much milk powder and how much diaper I want. And when you buy, you got to take a picture of the beneficiary, not picture taking it up, but just delivered to the beneficiary home. So they agreed to it. I think we raised about $10,000 in 2 weeks.
That's sick.
Yeah, but that's also because we created the narrative for them. We were like very clear that, look, you've got to put the narrative very clear where the money goes to. And after 2 weeks after that, I think a month after that, the report was out. They gave out all, they will say, okay, thank you for the amount of money that you raised for us. This is the families that, how many families benefit. Here are some of the pictures of them benefiting from it. So it closed the loop really nicely.
Yeah.
And I think if you put it into corporate perspective in this COVID climate, we have to be very clear. Like be it for musicians or for non-profit, it has to be that clear. Like I've got 3 artists, musicians that we want to support. And if you give us this amount of money, we will make sure that they come out with EP or something, like be able to perform and all that. And then we want to, that kind of stuff. And I think people buy into that.
Joe, you can come raise funds for us.
I'm caught up with SG Muso now with David, as you know, David. Yeah. But I think that's the concept that we went through.
I think for us, during COVID, we had to put a lot of our projects on hold. So I don't have an example for you from like the recent times, but in our past experience, like Joe said, so some of the corporates are interested in the tax deduction. Some of them, or actually most of them, have already earmarked certain causes that they are going to give to. Very often the fundraisers to try and regroup and to figure out, do we need to do what Joe does and use music as as a medium to raise funds? Or is there some way that we can convince donors to once again open their wallets and their hearts to the arts, right? So this is this big thing that I wish I could tell you the answer to, but if you have the answer, you come and tell me.
Just reach out, Don Wong at Foundation. There should be your email.
Okay, make a pledge to donate.
Yeah,
guys,
$1
to support the musicians.
Yes, I'll tell you what we use the money for.
I remember Inge did this one thing, right, where the cause was, so she went to Alaska. Yeah, was it Alaska? Inge.
Oh, Inge.
Yeah. Was it Alaska or Antarctica? Oh, one of those, yeah. The one without penguins, yeah. No penguins. So I think it's Alaska.
I think so.
So, the cause was, so she was part of the not exhibition, a bunch of people, what do you call it when they send the expedition, not expedition. So she part of an expedition to find out and to kind of measure the effects of global warming, right? And for her, so she spent a month there, and she wrote the play about it, and accompanying songs as well. So it was like a half theater kind of show. And she came back and she performed it here, and it did pretty well as well. And it was like a whole month-long run, I think. And that's like a clear example of how like there's a cause, and you use whatever medium which you're comfortable with to raise awareness about that cause. For her, the whole show was about her time in Alaska and how it was so I guess like sad in a sense, or like heartbreaking to see things happen in a certain way. Yeah, it was a bit touching, like.
And that's the thing, see, like a lot of people think that art is for art's sake, but a lot of artists make art to say something, and that's where the line gets really fuzzy. That's where all the intangibles are. Who benefits from the art that's being made, right? All of us, if that's the short answer. And who's going to fund the art?
Yeah. Yes.
So I like to challenge the norm sometimes, because I'm really not a musician. So I'm just passionate about like the whole social impact landscape, right? So I ask people when you watch all those fundraising shows, right? What is the main things? what are some of the main features that cause people to raise fund? Oh, they say, oh, okay, singing, performing. Then I'm like, yeah, exactly, right? You get people singing, right? And so you got people using arts to perform. And then they say, oh, they get paid, right? I say, yes, but my point is that it's not them getting paid. It's not about supporting them getting paid. It's supporting those people that could be the next generation that comes up eventually. And if they take that position, they can then tell the organizer, say, you know what, I was developed through the public, and now I want to perform for free. If we create that ecosystem, and it starts with all of us, right? If we don't start doing this, the next generation of musicians or artists that comes up will think that, look, I did it all on my own, but if I were to be really developed by Singaporeans who really believe and developed me and donated and supported my cause, I would be proud to say, look, I'm here. I want to support all the social cause. And, I don't want to take a single cent because you guys developed me.
Very dangerous to say things like that. Perform for free.
No, yeah, of course. But I'm trying to say, I'm not trying to say that we will definitely perform for free, but it's more of like the whole idea of like, if we create that kind of
Giving back.
type of concept. Yeah, because, even for, and I vouch, I pay all my artists. We pay our artists for music, for course we do. But I think it's just more of the having the intention. And we have musicians that comes to us and say, I don't want to take a single cent. And yet we still tell them to take it. But the whole idea of the musicians even thinking that I'm grateful and I want to do that because I'm in a good position shows that it has to start with people from the public and the corporate seeing them as people like that as well, bring joy, and they deserve to be paid, right? But at the same time, when artists that work with us say that they don't want to be paid, we tell them that, look, you take the money, and you know what they did? They go around and they drop off the money to the social causes on the music festival.
Yeah.
And it's not that we want to say that they should be paid for free, but you see this and you look at yourself and say, look, then Singapore will have progressed.
Yeah. Faith in humanity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then you know that, look, guys, we are good. But now can we say that we are good? I honestly am not so sure. Are we bad? No, I don't think we are bad, but it's just that, can we do better? Can we be more, sorry, I take more airtime.
No, good.
You talk about people climbing expeditions, right? They always have, I want to donate for this XXYY non-profit. Then, why do we donate? We donate because we believe in that cause, right? But do we have somebody that can dare say, oh, I want to run, and then I want to run to support the musicians? Or can I run to develop an artist? It doesn't sound like a very appealing story, but at the end of the day, can it be done? I think can. It's just crossing that line, right? To say, hey, actually, why not? Let's run for musicians. Let's run in support of the people that create music, or let's run for the people who created the arts, and let's run to raise awareness for, that kind of, I think that kind of narrative that comes up will be quite cool.
You run to power a music festival.
Exactly, it's actually quite a cool narrative if we were to think of it that way, rather than think, I just want you to donate, but can we power something? I want to run 10K and hopefully we can, or run 50K, the whole Singapore runs it, and then every kilometer I run, you donate $1, and I want to make this music festival a reality, that kind of stuff. That is possible, it's just whether we want to do it or not.
Yeah, there's also a way to bring in the corporates. Once you have an interesting narrative, and I guess an interesting way to spin it, and the corporates should, in theory they should be more involved. And one thing that we were just talking about as well is how musicians. I remember someone said to me once, if you stand on stage, right? It means you have a voice, or rather you have a platform, and you must use it for good. And not must should use it for good. So it's a similar kind of approach where just now you're talking about some of your artists, where they refuse to take money or to a heavily reduced fee, that kind. And then they shout out about the cause as well. Sometimes we need to think about the artist's point of view as well. They actually have platforms that they can be utilized as well to mobilize communities, to find social causes and issues that they can talk about as well. Yeah, Yeah,
but I want to caveat what Don said. It's true that we must not expect the musicians to perform for free, because it's a career. No, I must caveat it really. Right. In all seriousness, I think we must cover, because it's a career, right? It's basically what they do for a living. So if we want to, it's basically we choose this career path, and we have to be paid . But my point is that at the end of the day, if we have enough to earn, then I think it's like what we do, like we have a normal corporate job as a lawyer, I earn enough or whatever. Okay, I don't want to judge career, but a certain career that pays you better, you will be more, you'll be more inclined to say, okay, you know what, I want to do something for pro bono or something, right? That kind of thing, lah. But okay, lah. Hopefully we get past that stage.
I'm very sorry for raising such a sore point.
No, but it's true, because I think I'm so glad because I don't want to mislead the people that's watching to think that actually we can demand for musicians to perform for free.
Okay, I mean, full disclosure, I'm a musician, so
Apparently she
this
sings very well.
topic
Can
is
we
very-
have the music, please?
It's very,
yeah.
this topic is close to my heart. But definitely, getting the dollar and then putting it back into the economy, right? That's what the musicians can do, like you said, if we are in a good position and we can do that. Or we can take the money and fund our next project. And then there will be even more benefits that derive from the projects that we
It's
do.
like a multiplier effect.
Definitely.
Yeah, where the economy is stimulated, because it's not just giving $1 to the musician and then the musician is going to buy a tea fund. You're enabling them. So
Even if you buy the tea fund, it goes to the tea
hawker
fund
also,
seller,
yeah.
and the hawker will pay their suppliers,
Exactly.
and it goes. It's a real model of measuring the
Yeah.
effect and impact of the art.
It's a whole ecosystem, guys.
Yeah.
Whole ecosystem. We everything gets stayed here, right? And then we are building the.
Yeah, it's like
I'm very sighy when I think
Yeah.
about the music scene now, especially the past 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm not a musician myself, and I run F&B, right? So we all experience the same problem. I still have people that comes in, albeit in 2 packs, but some musicians, they totally have no gigs,
Yeah.
And then what do they do? It sounds very convenient when you talk about, why fundraise or why fundraise or consider fundraising as an avenue for musicians. But I don't think it's an avenue. It's just really a way to engage them.
Yeah.
For gigs. Let them continue to build good music, and then get them to continue to push and stay current in the market. Because in 2 years' time, if God willing, we are able to open the economy, we got to be ready to push out the new music, right? We can't be there. Okay, now we can start again, right?
Yeah.
Actually, ironically, I know of musicians who have converted to F&B, just trying to stay alive.
Aiyo.
It's so
Also
between
tough
between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I may say, so when we talk about fundraising for musicians, right, it's not just sustenance, right? So if you think of it as a corporation, the company will reinvest some of their revenues into R&D. And this is what you don't see, right? The money that goes in, some may say it's arts for art's sake, but it's exploration, it's experimentation, it's necessary, because you don't know what you don't know until you try. And sometimes the money, goes down the drain, so to speak, but it doesn't really, because you learn from the experiences, right? So there's a good portion of this money that has to go to arts efforts like these in order to create the success stories that will then pump returns back to us, the general public, right? So, but then of course, COVID, these times are very special. So you have people who are falling through the cracks, and those are definitely people we should help. Because otherwise, like Joe said, 2 years' time, if we open the economy, only then there may not be musicians to play at whatever it is that you used to know. We're just not there anymore.
Yeah, right. So actually, to add on to Don's point, right? You see, a lot of people then conveniently say, "Oh, what about the National Arts Council and there are other ministries that support those kind of initiative? Why can't they help, right?" So actually, my take to them is like me, right? I came up, I had an initiative. I wanted to do a music festival. I applied for it. I went to do it because I reached out to whatever the funding that's available and the grants available, right? And I think people like listening in and even corporates or whoever social enterprise out there who really, at least, you don't have to fully resonate with us, but at least have some resonance with us. I think you can also talk about, you can actually go to NAC and say, you know what, I want to apply for something, I want to run my event, but I want to feature music inside. To have that thought about featuring musicians inside or having an arts element inside is good enough to really promote the art scene. And can you imagine you're just one company today talking about it, or having that idea that, okay, I want to have musicians as part of that slice of what I do. And if everybody have that little slice, like for example, climate change, right? Now everybody say, oh, my event, I will not do plastic show. It's great because it has reached initially when I started with music for a cause, right? It was always plastic, like we had plastic as the convenience mean. But now, metal, really, very rarely I see paper, really plastic type. So in my opinion, if let's say we can have that kind of speed in terms of that feature of musician as in that similar angle, I think we'll do quite well, you know, in my opinion. It's just little step everybody takes.
I just had a thought when you were talking about the straw replacement situation. I mean, what if we change that to music? So instead of using existing music covers, we switch that to original music.
Yeah.
We insist on it.
Actually, I've seen so those sessionists that are like Lisa, how you know, for example, that session for both original music and top 40s. So they try to incorporate that into their own top 40s cover band sets. So I've seen her do like covers of I think at least 10, 20 Singaporean artists in her own set. And I was like, oh, very nice. Then people will come up to her and like, hey, this song very nice. I never heard it before. And she'll be like, no, here's the Spotify.
Yeah, you just need to give the music a chance.
Yeah, so 53A Sarah Wee does that a lot as well. So, and actually some of the requests that come up last time on Timber Substation were for Singaporean songs. Yeah, so it was a nice like cultural shift that way. Yeah, but it's a good idea, you know. And I think a lot of the local songs here can be celebrated in that way, you know, and be presented. And it's a chance for them to reimagine the songs as well. So like, yeah, it's a nice ecosystem of recycling. Yeah. There's one of the examples I was thinking about how like, remember we had the whole, was it unnecessary? No, non-essential. Yeah, non-essential categorization of musicians, right? And that's fine, you know. But then when the National Day patriotism period came about, there was all the like 100 voices, 500 voices singing singing this song, that song, and that was a clear example of how like, you know, the arts mean so much to us and becomes a public good, you know, and becomes super useful in that sense of putting people together, you know, like bringing us like towards like a commonality and a common goal. So like it's just a great example of how arts is needed, in that sense.
I think it's because it's convenient. You know, we consume music every day conveniently, and you know, and then that's where we don't think that we don't feel the pain as much. But actually now we do, right? We were just talking about F&B and then no music now, right? So everybody's like, oh, how can I eat without music? So weird.
Very weird.
So actually it's the truth, you know. Can you imagine the world now? No Spotify, no nothing. Because people just cannot produce any more music, right? How? I mean, the irony was that we only started to really think about climate change where we really started to see a lot of natural disasters happening. And I think just because human make music, it becomes like easily, don't worry, if this person don't make, somebody else will make. Everybody's trying to be, you know, a musician these days. But good music and musicians are very different.
Yeah.
I think, you know.
It's true.
Yeah. So I think we sometimes we got to have that kind of hard conversation and say, look, can we help or not?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm being very Singlish here. Can help or not? Can help, then let's do it.
Yeah.
Like really just think about having an element. Like even all the, you know, when I go to a bar and listen to music last time, actually I do tip the musicians on it.
Yeah.
I make it a point, you know, because they bring good music, they give me a good time, right?
Yeah.
And of course they get paid, but you know the whole idea of like appreciating them and say, look, maybe I buy you a drink or whatever. It just now I think it meant even more to the musicians than back then. Of course, yeah. So
sometimes you just don't know what you have until it's like gone, yeah. And now like eating food in the quiet, you're like, this is so strange. Like no atmosphere, nothing. It becomes a whole different experience already. Yeah, it's very sian. Yeah. Okay, we have like 10 minutes left, right? And so far no questions, right? Okay. I was thinking about this avenues, right? So directing people towards avenues and platforms where do people find these kind of things, like, you know. For me, like, I get emails from Gift.Asia every once in a while, be like, oh, yo, this new campaign and this new need, someone is in need, and for me, that's like one way I discover. But like, how can the public go to discover such things?
So, if you are an artist or a musician and you're looking to raise funds, there is a Facebook group called producers.sg.
Oh yeah,
Right? So they've got files, like a whole list of foundations, grants, just opportunities for you to write in and state your case and try and raise some funds from there. You can also sign up to giving.sg to get their emailers about campaigns that open. So they do have a category for the arts, and yeah, you can go and browse all the campaigns as well. But I think music in general, most people, if you are a donor looking to give, then I'm sure you're already aware of all the Bandcamp, Kickstarter, you know, those sorts of projects, and those are available. Giving.sg and the like, as well, campaigns available.
Yeah, I mentioned Bandcamp because Bandcamp is like technically not like a fundraising platform, but it's like it's a payment system. So, and that's also a way to think about it. You know, you're supporting the artist directly. You're giving them money for the songs. You know, instead of going to Spotify to play, and every 10,000 plays gets them $40 or $30. So every million plays gets them 4,000. So it must hit 1 million. So, but like, yeah, so you know, send money directly by buying their songs on Bandcamp. Yeah, that's a good way.
Another name that came to mind was Patreon, and there are a whole bunch of those. But there is an inherent challenge to musicians on these platforms. We don't create visually, right? So we don't have like a making of video that is visually appealing that people want to pay $2 to watch every month. And how often can you make these? Because in your recording process, the problem with the recording process is that it is incredibly expensive. Even if at the lowest, cheapest level, it is still incredibly expensive, right? If you consider the average person's salary. So to be able to make a single and then record the behind the scenes footage so that someone can pay you $2 to see it just doesn't really make sense. So I find it a very big problem for musicians to follow this model. Yeah, I mean, even if we sold the scores, even if we sold lessons, all these take time and resources to make.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a huge problem, really.
Yeah. I haven't seen many musicians on Patreon. Yeah.
So on my end, we Love Action Project just did our last MFAC last year. So this year we really had to embrace the whole pivot to digitalization, right? So one of the things we're trying to do is we're trying to create a platform where we can feature musicians. And what happened is that if the musicians allow or wants, public can then engage them to perform live for them, which means they can directly connect with them on this platform, and then they can just post a video of them performing. And then if the public likes it, say, hey, look, can you do a live stream for me at this cost? And then I'll just say my name or whatever, you know, just like, you know, like for example, you go to a pub, right, and they say, hey, happy birthday, dude, that kind of stuff. So we want to do something like that. And the money goes directly to them. They trade directly. You know, we just become a platform that features the musicians within Singapore and where they gig and everything. And then when they click on it, they will see the video of them performing. Yeah. And then after that, if they want to engage, click on engage, and then you go ahead. Yeah. But we will clock it as you have engaged them on our end. So the whole idea is really then to give them a gig, that kind of stuff, and then pay them, and then they can perform digitally.
That sounds interesting.
Isn't that those? We are trying to follow the format of those, like, you know, happy birthday. Like remember, there's those that you pay $50 and then they will.
What, Fiverr? No.
No, I don't know what is it. Okay, but anyway, we're trying to do it. The concept is more professional, which means that we want the artist to be performing professionally. Yeah. But at the same time, the session is funded by the individual that engaged them. It's like I have a wedding singer or I have the birthday singer. But he can't do it here, but he do it digitally on TV when I'm holding on my birthday party at my place, you know, that kind of stuff. So we want to do that, be
Okay.
able to let public digitally connect with them, and then be able to perform, hey, happy birthday to you, we are here performing live now, on screen, that kind of stuff.
That sounds quite cool.
Yeah, so that's what we want to do, but we are not involved, we will not be involved in that transaction. We just want
Yeah.
to be that bridge.
That sounds
So you're
amazing.
building a platform to do this?
We are.
digital.
Okay, so we'll let the cat out of the bag soon.
Yeah.
So because we are
Very
still
sweet.
trying to finalize some funding
Okay.
portion with that, so yeah,
Great.
that's how we are pivoting. So
Right.
you see, guys, we can do it. We must do it. We must fundraise. Find means and ways to fundraise. We need to support the music scene. We need to support the artists in Singapore. We
Can is
must.
can. Yeah. I realized I forgot to introduce myself. So actually, today I'm actually representing NTUC UFSC. So because we're building the Performance Arts Industry Association, the next one. So and if you are a freelancer, then you can reach out to them. They have a bunch of like myself, I've benefited so much from their help, workshops, classes, and now we're tackling music export stuff together as well. So NTUC UFSE, if you want to check it out. Okay, one last thing before we close today, we have a question. How to sustain interest from the funders beyond a one-time fundraising event?
I think the question is, what are you fundraising for? Right? Is it a one-off project? Are you trying to build something? If you've only got a one-year horizon and you are doing a fundraising event for 1 year, then you're not giving the funder or the donor very much to work with, right? But if you've got a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, take it to them and ask them for a multi-year commitment. So, it can be dependent on what you achieve in the first year. Have you checked your boxes? Did you do your evaluation? Have you tracked everything you said you were going to track? Submit the reports, and then that automatically, sort of qualifies you for the next disbursement and the next disbursement. So really the question is back to yourself. What are you fundraising for? How are you going to use the money? And then how does that align with the funder's interest? Eddie.
Yeah, it's like having something tangible. It's like what we've been talking about for the past hour or so, having something tangible, produce reports for them, and like just having a multi-year commitment is because you must show them you have a plan now, right? Essentially. Yeah, Joe?
Yeah, well, I think Don actually said everything in it. So I just wanted to chime in so that I can hear my own voice. So no, but in all seriousness, I think having a plan is important. I also think that before you seek a funder's support, you need to at least have something that's sustainable. A lot of time you just want to talk about, I want to do this and that's it. But you need to talk about, I want to do this so that I can do that, and then eventually we reach this goal. And I think working with the funders also means that you need to be communicating with them. You need to build a relationship with them. You cannot be just asking them for money and then stop. So I think that's something that I thought I wanted to add on.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, we have a minute left, so I think this is about time to wrap. Do you have any last words for your audience, guys?
If you're thinking about giving to the arts, you can visit the foundation.sg.
The foundation.sg. Oh, that's it. Yeah, that's the website. Yeah.
That's it. It's very easy.
Joe?
Well, I just want to say that I think it's quite a challenging time now. So I think it's important for us to also be open about supporting beneficiaries, regardless of what type of impact they create. I think it's important to also look wide and broad, and also think about music as something that's day to day, and sometimes that we might overlook it. So yeah, do consider that.
All right. Yeah. Thank you guys for being here with me. It's been a pleasure talking to you all. And thank you guys at home or wherever you are for joining in. Keep an open heart and open mind. Thank you all. And remember to check out the rest of Music Day Out programs happening all the way until Saturday. Cheers.
Say it loud, say it like you proud. Think so well.
Every time I think I'm growing up, and then she ran to take my hand underneath the moonlight. time I think of growing up. And then she ran to take my hand underneath the moonlight.
Good evening, denizens of the interwebs. Welcome to the Scape Music Day Out pre-11 live stream, where we feature performances, interviews, and talks with local artists and industry players in our music scene. This is songwriting in the big leagues. Music Day Out is back for its third year in a hybrid format. As a festival that supports and recognizes youth in Singapore's culture, it will include performances from our young music talents and panel discussions with regional industry professionals. Music Day Out is happening right now from the 18th to the 23rd of October at various venues on Scape and online. Visit the Scape website or follow the social media for updates. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce our incredible panel of music industry professionals, all based right here on our sunny island, who have made their mark on music, not just right here in Singapore, but throughout the world, from Hollywood trailers to American, European, and Korean pop. I'm also very proud to consider all of them my friends. First up, Josh Wei, signed to Universal Music Publishing Group at 19. He is responsible for some of the biggest pop records to come out of Singapore, including General Bones, I Wouldn't Know Any Better Than You. With over 30 million streams collectively, it is one of the highest streaming records by a domestic act in the history of the country. He also worked with JYP Stray Kids on Sunshine and the soundtrack for Steven Spielberg's The Turning, which also includes songs from Kali Uchis, Courtney Love, and Muna. He also co-produced Soldiers for Rachel Platten, which was also the soundtrack to a nationwide CBS primetime network promotional spot, nationwide as in America. On a personal note, I first got to know Josh when he was a kid serving NS and playing violin for General Bones, and I'm so proud of how far he's come in such a short time. A round of cyber applause for Josh, please.
Whoa. Thank you.
All right,
thank you,
next up,
Ted.
Gregory Tan. Greg is a composer and mixing engineer who specializes in creating hybrid orchestral and sound design trailer music. We all call him Sync God because he has exciting news to share almost every other day. His work gets consistently placed in international trailers and TV shows, including Fast and Furious 9, WWE SmackDown, WWE Raw, Comedy Central, Paramount Plus, MTV's Revenge Prank, and many others. He has also provided trailerized remixes and composed original music for Tencent Games and Play Studios. He's also one of the co-founders of IX. Is it IX Sound or Nine Sound?
IX.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, IX Sound, X Sound, a sample library company, and head composer orchestrator at Grid Private Limited. Cyber applause time!
Thank you.
Finally, Rue Piggott. Rue is a music industry and technology entrepreneur whose career's highlights include creating the world's first successful fan-funded record label, building the company responsible for the DIY release movement of the early 2000s, inventing Music Code, now valued at £320 million and called V-Code, and launching Songwork International, a songwriting and music production school in Southeast Asia. Rue's most recent venture, Prolific Songs, has a long list of hit songs and success, including double platinum and diamond hits across the world and great success in many global music markets. Prolific Songs are a boutique music publisher with a manager's mindset. Applause, please.
Oh,
And now,
thank you.
it's time for me to shut up and let a panel of extreme overachievers with monosyllabic names do the talking. So guys, let's talk very briefly about what each of you and your companies do. So that our audience can get a feel of what you do like day to day. Let's start with Josh, please.
Yeah, well, I work as a producer and a songwriter. Right now, I do so independently, but I also co-own Snakeweed Studios with Leonard Susay, and we are a recording, production, and mixing studio here in Singapore. And together right now, the goal is really to make good music, make music that we love, make music that hopefully more people in Singapore and around the world love. And that's what we're focused on right now.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask a quick follow-up question since we're talking about what you and your company does. What kind of work do you do? Do you do mostly recording, or are you doing songwriting sessions? Is it kind of a mix of everything?
Yeah, so sort of a day in the life would be a mixture of a number of things. When I work with artists, I do like to work with them from the ground up. So that usually means either we have nothing and we come in the room together and we start to create, or maybe I have some kind of melodic idea or a rough beat, or they have some kind of melodic idea and they bring it to the table. But very much it's a organic ground up process that we start creating. So, on a day like that, I would be doing like a writing session at the studio, and I work on a number of projects at once. So, some may be at the writing stage, and once it's past the writing stage, I go into the production phase where we start to figure out what's the right sound, what's the best sound for the artist and the best sound for the consumer. And once that's done, I may be recording at the studio, getting the vocals in, getting whatever other instruments needs to be in, and then I may work on the mix with Leonard, and then I may, so it's really kind of everything happening all at the same time.
Wonderful. All right, let's move on to Greg. So Greg, let's talk very briefly about you and your companies.
Yeah, all right. So for myself, I mainly write instrumental music. So some would call it production music, but I focus on a very specific niche known as trailers. And I guess you could call it trailer music. And I write these kind of musics for, I guess, what you call the industry or publishers, which specialize in these genres. That's not to say that the music is only exclusive to be used in trailers. So it really depends on the clients. Like you can write trailer style track and can end up in a TV show and everything else in between. So yeah, that's basically it for the composition side. Occasionally, I do work with artists when I need to bring in, for example, a vocalist to top line on the tracks that I'm doing for the publisher. So shout out to Mirin. We've been doing that a lot together. But yeah, basically for the most part, that's it. And I do help out the guys at Grid Studios Private Limited, and as well as the sample library company that I'm now a part of called IX Sound. Yeah, that's pretty much everything.
Okay, yeah. So I'm going to ask you a follow-up question. For the sake of our listeners, what is the process by which something you make in your room, say on a Monday, gets sold to WWE that Friday? Like, what happens in the middle?
So a lot of times, the publishers already kind of know what their clients want or expect during this season or this period of time. So it depends on what they are working on, and they would in turn funnel that down to the composer or like the team of guys who's doing the music, a bunch of composers or sound designers. And from there, we create the briefs, we create the tracks for the briefs, and we just send it out to them. And it can take sometimes, as quick as a couple of days for things to get used. Sometimes the client sits on it for a while. It can even disappear off the grid for a bit and come back like, a month later and suddenly like you found out that your track gets used. In some cases, the track is part of like what we call a catalog, so a library. So it's not for any specific use, but it's just what perhaps the publisher thinks it will be important, in the future, or it's like a future trend or something. So they would just let it sit there for as long as it takes to get used. Yeah, so there's kind of no definite deadline as to when a particular track or album gets placed. Yeah.
So when you're working on a brief, not the catalog stuff, so a specific brief for a specific show, for example, what kind of
Yeah.
lead time are we looking at for the creative?
Most of the time, for a full album, it could be as quick as a month if it's like, really urgent. So very likely there'll be a bunch of composers that come together just because it's too much work for an individual. For a specific track, for a custom brief, that is usually, like 24 hours, 48 hours. So it's a really, really, really tight deadline. And sometimes like I have to pull like all-nighters for those. And yeah, it's just part and parcel of work.
Got it. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is how you get your songs on all of those shows and multiple placements every week. Okay, actually, this is a great time to segue over to Rue because we were talking a lot about publishing, and that's actually Rue's main venture right now, Prolific Songs. So, Rue, could you share with us a little bit about a typical day in your life and what you actually do?
Yeah, in terms of prolific or generally?
Maybe let's focus on Prolific and the songwriting
Yeah.
related stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, as Prolific, we're I guess a boutique publisher, assets management company, really. I mean, we are my fantastic business partner, Michael Dan Joseph, who you've known for almost as long as I have, my friend. We spend our time. Michael's based in the UK, by the way. We spend our time really. A lot of it is this. It's a lot of conversation with writers, with producers, with labels, with other publishers around the world, and we are looking for creative opportunities for our bank of writers. I mean, initially, the first step for us as a publisher is to try to snare these three fantastic people in front of me and try and get you guys to sign contracts with us so that we can represent you. At the end of the day, it is about, to be boring about it, it's copyright ownership at the end of the day. And that's one of the most important things I think that we just miss over here quite a lot. We see so many artists being just snared into record deals and their publishing is just sort of taken in with it. So that's one of the things that we try to protect for our artists is their publishing. And within that, yeah, I mean, so we look for artists like yourselves, we try to sign you, and then we exploit, it's a terrible word, but we exploit the copyrights into opportunity. That's that is my role, is to find, okay, so, for Greg, like, how do we get in with other writers and what are the opportunities that we can find him? And it's endless Zoom calls, it's endless phone calls, and it's endless just trying to put all of our writers together and, create new opportunities, to create new copyrights. It's actually, I said there, it's a business as in ownership of copyright. Sounds a bit boring, but geez, we have a riot. We get to work with guys like you. We have an absolute riot with it. It's fantastic time.
Awesome. So basically, you're a matchmaker, right? You try to find creatives who have talent that you feel is right for the market, and then you find all these other big companies and artists, and then you try to make that work together. So maybe let me ask a follow-up question. I think everyone's going to be really interested in what you're looking for to sign a new songwriter. Maybe someone without as extensive, a discography as any of the three of you, but someone that's just new and has talent. What are you looking out for?
Yeah, wow. I mean, it's a great one, buddy. I mean, it's like, does it hit you here? Does it hit you here? Like you've got to be moved by it. We are all creatives, and I'm sure most of the people watching here as well are creatives, and it's about that thing, isn't it? It's about something that you hear. Of course, we have to relate it to, is this syncable? Is it going to be a hit? Am I going to be able to sell it to, BTS, to whomever? like, so of course the finance comes into it. We all need to earn money from this, and I need to earn you guys money from this. But at the end of the day, no matter how talented someone is, I've got to be able to do this. We've got to be able to have this friendship, this conversation, this ongoing stuff. And if it's clinical, we will never just sign talent. It's got to be a relationship. It's got to be a great working relationship going forwards, a friendship, and someone that has the skills and malleability. And, I think, and that may be because we are an indie publisher, that might be a little bit different from one of the major publishers because it is Michael and I, and it's the small team around us. So it's got to work. It's got to be like a tight family. But yeah, that's it really. It's do I feel it here? Is it is it going to be a hit track? Can I sync it?
No, that's a great that's a great perspective. And I feel like here in Singapore, really, we could definitely do with more indie publishers like you and your company, because I think for the longest time there was that huge void. But I'm just so glad that you're here with us right now. Okay, so going back to Josh, actually, we have a question from someone. I can't see the name, but it's a question. What inspires you to compose? A very simple one. Yeah.
Um, I mean, to start, I really do love music so much. It's one of the very few things. I can't think of anything else that makes me that happy, and gives me so much fulfillment. So I think that's like a starting point, honestly. Um, but like in terms of then getting inspiration day by day, I haven't like an album of videos on my phone that it's like if I'm at a show and an instrument plays something interesting and I'll just sing it into my phone. I'll record it. If I've walked at like Toys R Us and the toy plays like a pre-recorded thing when you press it, and that was interesting. And so I'm always like I put like 5 to 10 in the phone a day sometimes. It's just little 2 3 second snippets. I guess to answer the question, I'm just really inspired by what's around me, and I relate things around me to like music, to the craft, and to songwriting. Yeah.
Wonderful. Going to direct that question to both Greg and Rue as well. So let's start with Greg. Yeah.
Um, well, I guess for my line of work and for what I do, like the briefs are kind of specific, and they sort of allow you to explore your creativity, but to a limited extent. So I guess the inspiration really comes from, I guess, knowing possibly this doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes you do know like the movie that you are going to be writing for, potentially the trailer. I mean, and there's a chance that your track may end up there. So that's like sort of the motivation behind like specifically what I do. Um, on a more broad-based thing, I guess a lot of it boils down to self-awareness. Like similar to Josh, I don't think I can see myself doing anything else besides what I love, which is music. So yeah, that's pretty much uh, yeah, like my answer to that question. Yeah.
Perfect.
Rue?
Rue, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. I think Tat, you and I have had this conversation a few times just in terms of keeping creativity in our lives. I think one of the things that I always say is I've still got the noises in my head. They have to come out. So the guitars are behind. I'm fortunate enough to have my office in a beautiful recording studio, so I can actually make noise still. Historically, alongside all the publishing and all of the businesses that I've done, I've always released music, and I'm signed to Universal and to Sony ATV with production music, and still love to dabble in that stuff. So I think inspiration is just I can't stop. There's no stopping it. I think it just sort of comes out. It would be more painful to try and quieten the noises than to let it out in some way.
Amazing. Yeah, I completely feel that. Cool. So we have a kind of a troll question, but from Evan Lowe, who we call NDP God because yeah, he did a lot of music for NDP this year, and he's brilliant. But maybe we should just skip that. Sorry, Evan. All right. Yeah. So I'm just gonna go on with the stuff that I sent you guys on the WhatsApp group earlier, being a very friendly moderator. So let's talk about turning points here, right? Well, what was the turning point for your career when you felt like things were finally falling into place or getting to high gear? And how did you get there? Josh?
I I don't think there's ever been like one turning point for me personally. I don't. I mean, there are many small moments that yes have made me feel encouraged in what I do. Um, yeah, I could name some. Like when I just started out, I was working a lot with Gentle Bones, and I still do today. And I remember the first EP launch. I was very unsure about who was gonna come, and whether there would be people that would show up. And it was at TED, and we stepped out of the place, and the queue was just down to the next street across the road. And I mean, small moments like that. When you play a show and everyone's singing your song, I mean that moments like that make me feel like, oh, okay, we're getting somewhere. I've sat in a cafe in LA, and and a Gentle Bones song came out. Moments like that do make me feel like maybe I'm doing the right thing, and I just need to keep pushing and keep working hard. But no, there's never been like one moment where like, oh, my career is sorted right now. I don't even feel that today. I still feel very
Yeah.
much that there's so much to do.
Cool. Yeah, I completely feel that. Greg?
Yeah, I think likewise my answer will be quite similar to Josh. I don't think there's a specific point that I thought that like, wow, like I'm, somebody or doing something right. I guess the specific points where made me realize like this is a viable career was obviously when I first signed my tracks away. I think my first ever publishing deals, that felt a little bit surreal because it's like, you're going through changes after changes, like revisions after revisions, and then you realize like, hey, somebody actually wants this, and you're like, wow, like can't believe that, right? Yeah, and I think the next step after that would be the placements. It's kind of cool to see the placements start coming in, but I think it really hits you when you see your music in the TV shows or like the advertisements that you grew up watching. I think that makes a huge difference. Yeah, so from there, it's just been like getting more of that, I guess, more placements, and eventually, I think this year when I landed the Fast and Furious 9 trailer, that one was kind of it was kind of unexpected because the publisher and I were actually pitching for another movie, and then we didn't get that, and I was just a bit like bummed out. And then he was like, "Dude, my creative director is gonna call me." And after that, he was like, "Okay, so we didn't land this particular movie, but we landed Fast 9." And I was just like, "Wait, wow, what?" Like, yeah. So that was kind of a moment I won't forget that. Yeah. Yeah. So basically, these little things that make you feel that you are doing something right. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. So, Rue, we actually have a lot of questions for you. Let me just look at all of them. Okay, yeah, that's a good one. How do you think the writing process is different in Singapore and overseas, and what can we do to improve?
Well, how is the writing difference? Is there a writing process that's different over here? It might be, if you're feeling that, and I'm not saying that there is or isn't. I've not experienced that. I think because everyone that we work with it's a lot of it's times in here. It might be Sheikh who's just down the corridor, and Gareth or someone, or like we might be, it might be right here in this room or in the studio, or it might be on Zoom. I think if you're feeling that there's some sort of difference, it might be just in terms of the opportunities that are presented. This is one of the things and one of the reasons that we wanted to set up Prolific here as well as in the UK, was to sort of try to break this glass ceiling, this idea of, and exactly what you said originally, Tat, in terms of getting an indie publisher in here as well, and just kind of finding a way to get there's such amazing talent in Singapore and in Southeast Asia, such phenomenal talent, and it's creating those opportunities so that there is no difference to anywhere else in the world in terms of the opportunity, or in terms of the writing process, because it's just about having those opportunities presented and being able to get to them. I don't know whether that really answers that question. I don't feel that there's a writing process different, because it's every writer that I meet, whether it's you guys, whether anyone that we're working with, everybody writes slightly differently. In terms of the briefs, Prolific, my business partner Michael. Michael started out with Future Songs. He was like 12 years ago, 13 years ago, he was telling everybody you should be looking at K-pop and J-pop, and and everyone's like, what on earth are you doing over there, man? What on earth are you thinking doing over there? It just wasn't in the kind of Western mindset to go do this, and he just killed it over there. So although we are a Western and Singaporean publisher, we've already done all the different global markets. So once you have those opportunities, I think the whole writing process becomes the same. It's just down to you personally.
That's a great answer. For Josh or Greg, do you guys have anything to add to that? Have you, having had some overseas experience, but also being based back here now, do you see any differences in our creative process, or any things that we wish were better?
Greg, go first.
All right.
Get in, Greg.
Well, I guess it's interesting. Like, even though I'm based in Singapore, most of my work has always been with people or publishers abroad. So I can't say too much about the process here. Like, I don't have a fair gauge or comparison. But I would say with the people that I've worked with overseas, a lot of them are, they are really open in terms of having other people's ideas heard, and even if like you may not be as experienced as some of the people in the room, or you may not have like as large a credential plate as some of the guys there. Like I think there's a general openness, and sort of like, at least in my experience, of course, there is a understanding that there shouldn't be any egos when it comes to the process. So this is broadly, of course, speaking from my experience overseas. I'm not too sure about what it's like in Singapore, because I haven't been to, I think I can count with my hands the number of times I've been to a local session over here. So maybe I should get more involved with those. Yeah.
I'll give you a call, buddy. Yeah.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
Let's completely fix that. You're here now, and we should all be working together. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, man.
So for Josh, what's it like working here versus in LA?
I think, excuse me. I think the one of the main differences is that when you're in LA, and Ted would know this, but when you're in LA, you could find yourself in sessions with people you don't know, and that actually happens quite a lot. Yeah, most sessions will be organized, and you're in the room with people you don't know. You're meeting for the first time, and then you're supposed to leave with a song. In my experience here, and not that I know of, you don't write with people you don't know. There's no infrastructure really to put random people together and write songs. I don't even think there are enough songwriters to do that. So it's hard to compare, because everyone I write with here is there are people I know, and there are people I know usually quite well, quite intimately. So I think it's tough to compare.
No, you touch on a very very important point, which is the songwriting session in a more established market, like say London or LA or New York, is has often been, in my experience, like you said, kind of like speed dating, right? you get to know each other, you get to know the artist, and then somehow you have to vibe and connect and get something out by the end of the session. So actually, I think that's a great that's a great topic to dig into, just maybe a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
In your experience, have you found ways to bridge, to connect to maybe people that you found a little bit of distance with at the start of the session? And what do you have some tips and tricks, or some experiences to share as far as connecting with just really different people, so you can get a song out by the end of I don't know, 6 hours in the studio?
Yeah, not. I think when you're a songwriter, you know part of the job is to be open. Especially if you're a professional songwriter, part of the job is knowing that you do have to open up to people that are new, that people to maybe foreign to you. For me, when I am in the room, when we get together at the start, we rarely just start writing. We talk, we catch up, we talk about the day, we talk about the week. If I meet people who I get the vibe that they aren't so open, I will just start by opening up first, and usually that encourages people to open up as well. Like I'm quite an open person, so I may talk about my day, I may talk about things that are bothering me, I may talk about things that are on my mind, and slowly people weigh in, and then before they know it, they are also opening up, and then the vibes there, and then everyone's chill and everyone's slightly more comfortable, and then you start going into music. So yeah.
That's great. So basically, creating a safe space by sharing, and then making sure that everyone feels like they can talk openly and honestly about things that they feel, and then sometimes a song comes out from that. Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Uh, let's see. Actually, let's go back to Evan's question, because even though it came from a very trollish place, it is actually not a bad question. So Evan Lowe says, "Hi guys, I'm a new and aspiring musician. Can you teach me how to make myself heard amidst such a saturated market, please? Thank you. I'm a big fan." Um, wow. Okay, let's go to Rue first. Yeah. So Rue,
All right.
what do you think?
I feel like I need to start with Dear Evan. Yeah. I have this phrase that I'm sure you will all get to be bored of as well, and everybody that I speak to. I'm lucky in one of the companies that we work with that we go into schools and we teach kids how to write songs, which is a beautiful thing to be able to do. And I tell them right from the start, if you're looking to do this, know your world, know your world. Like that is it. I was once at a conference like 25 years ago, and this guy said it, and I thought that's absolutely right. Like, what do I want to do as a publisher? How can I be a publisher? Well, like these are not on the desk just for a bit of a laugh. It's like they sit here because I need to know my world. I need to, the present and future of music. Oh, what a riot! But actually, it's you've got to know it. So if you're going to be a composer, be a composer. If you want to stand head and shoulders above someone else, you've got to stand head and shoulders above someone else by. If you walk into that room, if you come and sit with me in a meeting and you want to get signed, you might have fantastic songs and that might do it and that might get us over the line and start talking. But if you can then tell me about what publishing is and what you want out of your publishing deal and what you want to be doing in 5 years' time and how you see yourself getting there and who you'd like to be writing for and what this actually I did these gigs and I need to talk to you about neighboring rights as well, and I need know it, own it. That is the way that you're going to do it. If you come in sort of pretending and you just we've all seen it, and I'm not just talking about us four here, all of us in the music industry, there's a lot of ego and someone might come in and they are the big I am, and they've got 3 fantastic songs and they sit back on your chair and they're all fantastic. You might have 3 great songs, but if you suck, you suck, and if you don't know, you're going to get torn up by this industry. And I don't mean that any of us are those sharks, and there are many of them out there, but you will get eaten alive without even knowing that you're getting eaten alive. So if you want to stand out head and shoulders, understand it, learn it, embody that knowledge, and then come at us with that knowledge and that skill set.
Wow, that was such an amazing answer. I was actually speechless for a couple seconds. Thanks, Ru. Let's see. Greg hasn't talked for a while, right? So, Greg, how
Oh yeah.
did you make yourself heard amid such a saturated market?
I think for me, I just gravitated naturally to the music that I've enjoyed, and I've always liked that, big, epic orchestral sound. So I decided to kind of research as to where these guys were hanging. I'm sure there was a community out there, right? So I found like, there's a whole YouTube community actually of composers that write for these massive epic music channels. And then like, as I explored more, I made more friends in this community along the way. Found out a lot of them actually wrote for music publishers that specialize in trailers, TV, games, specifically writing, the whole epic orchestral hybrid kind of thing. So I was like, okay, if this is a way I can sort of blend my passion and a way to make a living together, like why not, right? So that was how like I started to dig deeper. So I think to answer Evan's question directly, even though he's not like a young aspiring music producer, um, I would just say play to your strengths and go where you enjoy. Like the genre of music that you enjoy the most, things that you can see yourself producing, things that you can see yourself probably like in a couple of years' time still producing, and you're not just chasing a trend just because it's hot right now. In fact, even in the production music genre, there are certain genres that are more evergreen, so to speak, than other genres. For example, the reason why publishers would spend money recording live orchestral players is because the orchestra is timeless. For example, you hear them like many 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 years ago, and you hear them today. And it's something that doesn't go out of fashion. And even though it costs a lot of money, publishers are still willing to put that down the line because they know the return of the investment is going to be there, right? So it's the same thing, right? Like do your research, go where you particularly enjoy, find a community that you can vibe with, and start getting known in the community either by making friends and offering something of value, offering something of service. Because I think that's what a lot of educational institutes don't really talk about. Like, how do you step into a room and provide value to people that have been doing this like 20 years longer than you, right? I think that's a great way to get in the door when you can think of something that you can offer within a niche of a genre that you enjoy. Yeah. So from there, I think it's easier to know people. It's easier to build connections, a community, and obviously your work has to be great, like Ru mentioned earlier, right? So you got to be good at your craft, obviously, and then you got to know how you can provide value to people, and then you got to think about sort of scaling that up, right? So all these things I think are essential to someone that's really starting out to think about. Yeah.
No, that's great. That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just looking at the questions here. Yeah. Okay. Actually, let's talk about this one. So you all have amazing accomplishments in the world music market, and how do you maintain your worldwide footprint while being based in Singapore? Let's start with Josh.
Um, well, for me, I had to take the first step to leave Singapore, and I did that after NS. I left after NS and I went to the States, and I stayed for 3 years, and I just came back last year. Um, I mean, for me, in my world, in what I did, I feel like that was the right decision, and because of that, I made contacts and connections and friends really that till this day allows me to still work in those markets. You know, a lot of the international work that I do right now is because of the relationships I've built, you know, from my time in Los Angeles. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's maintaining the network that I had built over there and then growing it from there.
Very sound advice. Greg, did you start doing things outside, or were you back here before growing it?
I was actually working in-house for another company in the past, so that allowed me to sort of, I would say, brush up my production work. And I think after that, when I moved to sort of like a more international client base or international publishers, um, I felt that I had the necessary foundation to build upon. I struggled a lot at the start because it wasn't where it was needed to be. I guess because when you work in house, a lot of it is just quantity. You got to move things fast. You don't really pay attention to quality so much. So when I moved out, there was another steep learning curve. But even though it was steep, it wasn't as though I was starting from nothing. So when I started writing for publishers, it's kind of funny. Like there was a snowball effect. Like one publisher realizes that you're writing for sort of their competitor, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to write for us?" You know, and I'm like, "Sure, I don't mind." You know, and like things continue from there. And as time goes by, I think like it's easy to spread yourself thin, and then in the essence of like having a good mental health and all that kind of stuff, you sort of scale down to really choose who do you want to write for, and you just continually do it for these guys. So I guess if they trust you enough to continually send you work, that's how you stay relevant. I guess at least that's how I did it. To build on top of that,
Right.
I think having a good social media presence was quite important for me. So I'm like on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, on Instagram, um, and I just thank my publishers. I just thank the clients who use my music in these places. Yeah, I guess that's how people know that I'm still alive, I suppose. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So the internet and social media is really powerful for you to feel that you're still plugged into opportunities and for people to be able to find you and get to know you and your work and keep you front of mind, even though you may be thousands of miles around the world. Right.
Yeah.
So let's direct this question at Ru as well. So Ru, you have a company that's based both in the UK and in Singapore, right? So how is it like maintaining that worldwide footprint on a day-to-day basis?
Conversations with my business partner, whether that's, we're not always on the phone every day, but we're certainly messaging, or there's emails, trying to build a team around us, and just falling back on years and years of hard slug. I said to someone the other day, we're desperately trying to look like swans when it is chaos underneath. We are paddling like mad, you know. To get to this point, that I'm very lucky that I worked for 3 or 4 years as a sync agent and working in LA and meeting all the right people at that time to try and, like Greg, like, mate, I mean, like right now trying to get into sync, you're killing it, because right now, if I was you right now trying to get into sync, I would be running a mile, because it is so hard to get into it. But when I was making those contacts initially, I felt so fortunate to be looking back at that now and meeting all of these great people who are now sort of heading CBS or heading Discovery, or whatever, and you've got those contacts. The amount of music that these guys get now, right, as music supervisors and stuff, is astronomical. So to answer your I think this is, Michael and I have spent a long time in different businesses, and we bring it all together now. It's maintaining relationships. It's as I said right at the beginning, it's doing this stuff. It's having conversations, and it's ensuring that those relationships, at some point, not desperately, but at some point, they bear fruit. You're not forcing it. You're not, you don't want to be that guy ringing that person every 2 days. Yeah, can you sign me? Can you sign this? Can you use this? Can you, like backing off that, chilling, doing something for someone, ensuring that you assist and putting 2 or 3 people together that you will have no instant benefit from, but it will happen. It'll come, and that it's just building that network. So yeah, Muddy. Yeah, key to it is the conversations and the networks, really.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. So we are down to our last 5 minutes. Um, just scrolling through all the questions. Okay. So since this is our last 5 minutes, do you have any last words of wisdom for aspiring global songwriters out there? Josh?
Um, I think that for an aspiring songwriter, for an aspiring anything in music, honestly, um, there's a key couple of things to keep in mind. I think you have to be very good at what you do. That is at the base. You have to have you have to have a strong skill set in your craft. Um, but more importantly, I think you have to understand how to separate yourself and your work. And your work must have character, and your work must be unique. And I think that's something I struggled with at the start a lot. I was trying so hard to make music that I thought was right. And you do have to know how to do that, but at a certain point, you must realize if you sound like everyone else, you'll never really get a job. And so I think understanding the need to be different, that's very important, but that's also just step one. And once you've figured out how to be good and then how to be different, then you now have to figure out how do you please the consumer, because ultimately that's the person that's gonna listen to your work. And all these things are a balance. You can't lie to yourself and do something you don't like to please the consumer. That's not sustainable. You have to be true to yourself, you have to be good, yet you have to be different, and then you're going to have to please the consumer. There's so many things to juggle, and I think figuring out how to balance all of this and moving forward with that mindset is gonna help you a lot. That's something I wish I had a stronger grasp on at the start.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So now we're down to our last couple of minutes. Before we all get unceremoniously booted off this chat, I would like for everyone to, in the spirit of sharing, maybe you can talk a little bit about your social media handles and how everyone can keep in touch with all of you. Josh?
Yeah, I use mostly Instagram, so it's Josh Wei underscore. I think yes, it's Josh Wei underscore, and yeah, I see everything. So please follow me and shoot me a message. Always there.
Awesome. Greg?
Yeah, likewise, I'm on Instagram as well. It's at Greg Tan Music, straight and simple. Same for my LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook as well. I just use a personal page. Yeah, so just like key in Gregory Tan. Yeah.
Awesome. Ru?
Yeah, LinkedIn, Ru Pygott, prolificsongs.com, songwork.online, and Instagram, if you really need to connect with me on a personal one, is at Rucifer.
So ROO Cifer, right? CIFER.
CIFER,
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just the moderator tonight, but I'm Tat, and you can get me on IG at T2 Tat Tong. That's T2 TATTONG. So just rounding up, thank you so much, Escape, and to everyone who tuned in tonight. It was lovely talking to all of you, and guys, you all are champs. I'm just so proud that you're all my friends. Have a great night and keep it locked and Scape for the rest of Music Day Out. Bye-bye.
Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
guys. Thank you so much.